Imagine walking into a Rolex boutique with enough money to buy any watch in the room and discovering that the watch you want is not really for sale to you. The display is illuminated. The watch has a price. You are ready to pay, but the answer is still no. Perhaps the model is unavailable. Perhaps the example in the cabinet is for exhibition. Perhaps the authorized retailer has already chosen another client for the next one it receives. This is the central paradox of modern Rolex. The company makes watches that are recognized almost everywhere, yet some of its most recognizable models can be remarkably difficult to purchase new at retail. Money may get you through the door. It does not guarantee access. Rolex publishes no official customer hierarchy. Its authorized retailers receive deliveries and independently manage the allocation and sale of watches. There is no universal point system, no public formula, and no guaranteed position on a global waiting list. But beneath the surface, there is still a hierarchy, not simply of wealth, but of motivation. At the bottom, Rolex sells aspiration. At the top, it sells provenance. And between those 2 points are 7 very different kinds of Rolex owner. To understand them, we first need to understand what Rolex actually created. When Hans Wilsdorf founded the business that would become Rolex, wristwatches were still fighting for credibility. Many people considered them less reliable than pocket watches. Wilsdorf saw a different future. In 1926, Rolex introduced the Oyster, a wristwatch with a waterproof case. In 1931, it patented a self-winding mechanism using the perpetual rotor. These ideas helped produce the formula that still defines the brand, a watch designed to be worn every day, wound by movement, and protected from the outside world. Rolex later built watches associated with diving, aviation, exploration, and motor racing. The Submariner arrived in 1953. The GMT Master followed in 1955. The Cosmograph Daytona was launched in 1963. They were instruments before they became icons. That transformation, from equipment to international status symbol, created the first archetype. The Dreamer. The Dreamer may never have entered a Rolex boutique. He knows the crown from airport advertisements, sporting events, films, and the risks of people whose lives appear to have reached another level. To him, Rolex sells aspiration. The watch represents a future version of himself, more successful, more secure, and more in control of his time. This is the widest part of the pyramid. Millions recognize the name, but only a fraction know the movements, references, or history. The dreamer believes the purchase will be the final chapter. In reality, it is only the beginning. The second archetype is the achiever. The achiever buys a Rolex to mark an event, a promotion, a successful business, a wedding, a retirement, or the moment years of work finally become visible. The model is almost secondary. It may be an Oyster Perpetual, a Datejust, or a pre-owned watch. What matters is that the crown now sits on his wrist. To the achiever, Rolex sells accomplishment. Unlike a car, the watch can accompany him almost everywhere. It can enter a boardroom without announcement and still be noticed by the people who understand what it means. A new Rolex purchased through an official retailer carries a 5-year international guarantee. Alternatively, the Rolex Certified Pre-Owned program offers authenticated, fully serviced watches that are at least 2 years old, accompanied by a new 2-year international guarantee. That means the first step into Rolex ownership does not have to begin with a highly demanded new model. But for some buyers, private meaning is not enough. They want recognition. This creates the third archetype, the signaler. The signaler chooses the watch partly because other people will recognize it. A fluted bezel catches the light. A cyclops lens magnifies the date. The bracelet, dial, and crown communicate before the owner says a word. To the signaler, Rolex sells status. This does not make the purchase meaningless. Symbols have always been part of luxury. The watch may still represent years of work and personal sacrifice, but the audience matters. The signaler is attracted to the references that communicate most clearly. A precious metal day date, a two-tone Datejust, a Submariner, or the unmistakable silhouette of a Daytona. Yet recognition has a weakness. The better known a watch becomes, the less it reveals about the knowledge of the person wearing it. That is where the enthusiast separates from the crowd. The enthusiast notices what everyone else misses. He sees the difference between a submariner with and without a date. He understands why the GMT Master was created for pilots crossing time zones. He discusses case proportions, bracelet design, movements, and reference numbers. To him, Rolex sells knowledge. The enthusiast may choose a model that receives less public attention because the details matter more than the reaction. He may prefer an Explorer, an Air King, or a particular dial configuration that a casual observer would never recognize. For the signaler, the crown is the message. For the enthusiast, the message is hidden in the watch. This changes the buying process. He is no longer searching for any Rolex. He wants a particular reference, material, bezel, and dial, and that precision creates a new problem. The more specific and highly demanded the watch, the more difficult the retail path may become. This leads to the relationship client. The relationship client understands an important distinction. Rolex builds the watches, but official retailers independently manage their allocation and sale to customers. That means there is no single worldwide queue. A person can express interest in a watch, but an expression of interest is not a contract. It does not guarantee which watch will arrive, when it will arrive, or who will be offered it. For especially sought-after steel sports models, demand can exceed the number available through a particular retailer. The relationship client therefore becomes known. He visits consistently, he communicates clearly, he buys through the official network, has watches serviced, and develops a history with the business. In some cases, the retailer may also know that he is a genuine long-term owner rather than someone intending to resell a scarce watch immediately. None of this creates a guaranteed formula. Spending a certain amount does not officially unlock a specific model, and practices vary between retailers and markets. That uncertainty is part of the system's psychological power. To the relationship client, Rolex sells access. The phone call matters because it transforms the watch from a product into an invitation. He has not discovered the watch in a cabinet. The watch has, in a sense, found him. But access to a current model is not the end of the hierarchy. Once a buyer has owned enough modern Rolexes, something changes. Availability becomes less interesting than rarity. The sixth archetype is the collector. The collector enters a world where tiny details can dramatically alter desirability. Two watches may appear almost identical to the untrained eye, yet their production era, dial printing, bezel, case condition, or surviving components can place them in completely different categories. Collectors study so-called Paul Newman Daytona dials, early submariners, vintage GMT Masters, rare day dates, and discontinued configurations. They examine serial ranges, service history, and the relationship between every component. To the collector, Rolex sells rarity. But rarity alone is not enough. An unusual dial may be valuable because few survive. It may also be questionable because it was altered, refinished, or assembled from parts that did not begin life together. In this world, originality can matter more than polish. A heavily restored watch may look newer, yet be less desirable than an aged example whose dial, hands, and case carry decades of honest wear. The collector is no longer simply purchasing a Rolex. He is purchasing evidence. And at the narrowest point of the hierarchy stands the custodian. The custodian understands that the rarest Rolexes cannot be separated from the people who wore them. A watch may have accompanied an expedition, belonged to a celebrated figure, or survived with its original documents, photographs, and correspondence. This is provenance, the documented history connecting an object to its past. The most famous example is the Rolex Daytona owned by actor and racing driver Paul Newman. In 2017, the watch sold at auction for $17.75 million, including the buyer's premium. It was not the most complicated watch Rolex had made. Its value came from identity, history, and proof. It was not merely a Paul Newman-style Daytona, it was Paul Newman's Daytona. That single distinction reveals the final transformation. To the custodian, Rolex sells provenance. At this level, condition reports, family history, engraving, and documentation can matter more than the current catalog. The watch is no longer just an object that tells the time. It is a witness to time. The custodian's role is therefore different from that of the signaler. The signaler wants the watch to say something about him. The custodian allows the watch to speak for someone who came before. He may technically own it, but he also carries responsibility for what survives: the watch, its records, and the story connecting them. This is the hidden hierarchy of Rolex ownership. For the dreamer, the crown means aspiration. For the achiever, accomplishment. For the signaler, status. For the enthusiast, knowledge. For the relationship client, access. For the collector, rarity. And for the custodian, provenance. The same name appears on every dial, but the product changes depending on who is looking at it. One person sees a reward, another sees a signal, another sees a reference number, and another sees a fragment of history that may never appear for sale again. That is why money can buy a Rolex without necessarily buying the Rolex you want. Because at the bottom of the hierarchy, people compete to own the crown. At the top, they compete to own the story behind it. Leave your answer in the comments. And subscribe to The Uncommon Ledger for more documentaries decoding the hidden hierarchy behind cars, watches, yachts, aircraft, and the objects that exist beyond ordinary luxury.